Hey, thanks for joining us on VIP TV just a few days before what is a really exciting welterweight fight against Chris Kongo. Before we discuss the fight, how's life in the bubble? Some boxers tell me it's fun, others have told me it's boring.
Uh, just in a hotel room. It's pretty much similar to what I normally do, to be honest. But obviously, I'm normally in my room in my house, but it's the same. I've travelled a lot, so I'm used to the hotel situation.
Yeah, I mean, let's just go on to the fight. There's been a lot of talk about this fight go back to March, April, when it was meant to happen just before lockdown. How important is this fight in
Yeah.
your career so far?
Well, of course, it's an important fight for me. It's just one of those fights. It's trying to think. I've been continuously stepping it up in my career in opposition, especially in the last three or whatever, 4 fights, wherever it may be. And this is just a big fight because it's against someone that people rate highly. It's on a big bill, and it could be the thing that cuts short the process of trying to land a big promotional deal by a year or a couple fights or whatnot. So this could be a big step up, like a big push. So it's important.
Yeah, I mean, it seems every fight is a push here because the Freddie Kyle fight was one level, and now you've moved on to the next level. So it backs up what you're saying there. But Chris has had a lot to say. He seems to be saying a lot more than you about what he's going to do to you.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, he's a confident guy. He has good he has a right to feel confident, man. You know, he's done a lot in the amateur scene and he's highly rated in the pro scene by other pros and such things. So, he can speak all he wants,
um, when you look at this fight, you say you move on to the bigger fights. How do you assess the welterweight division in Britain? So you've got Chris Jenkins as the champion. Of course, there's Conor Benn, Josh Kelly with Matchroom, whose card you're fighting on, Echo Esserman, Michael McKinson. How do you assess all those guys who are around the same level as you, shall we say?
Yeah, I think having done rounds with Josh Kelly, I believe I've done numerous rounds. I think Josh Kelly's above. I think Josh Kelly's a little bit ahead of the British welterweights.
Really?
So I'd probably put Kelly quite up there. I've sparred. When I first turned pro, I grew up sparring McKinson before I turned professional until I got to like 3 or 4 fights. That's when we stopped sparring. So he's good as well. He's very awkward, very smart, very defensive, like typical southpaw. I think he's up there at the British level scene. I haven't got any experience Echo Esserman, but I really like Echo Esserman's style. He's a good boxer all around. He can punch, he can box. I like his style. He's probably one of my favorite. You know what I mean? It's weird to say favorite if you.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
But I like Esserman's style. And then Jenkins is a good boxer, but Jenkins he's a very good boxer, like technically, but we've seen some like performances where I don't think it's his fault. It's just the cut, the cuts, everything.
Yeah, yes, a lot of them.
Cuts. So we haven't got to see him. We know he's good, but we haven't got to see the proper fights play out as they should. But he's up there. Obviously, he's the British champion, so he has to be rated between the number one, I guess. Between him and Josh Kelly, I think that kind of thing. So the world, and even below those guys, you can keep naming people, but the division is stacked.
And Conor Benn as well. That would be that.
Oh yeah,
and name. Ben, yeah. The name is it seems Conor Benn might not have done what Chris Jenkins is doing, achieve what Josh Kelly has in the past, and but because of the name, he's the one that crops up with everybody, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean Conor Benn is a young fighter like myself, an improving fighter. He's getting better. And obviously he's stopping a lot of people. So he's up there. I think with Conor Benn, it's one of those things where, like I was just naming everybody, I forget about him because we haven't seen him we haven't seen him take similar fights to the kind of fights that everyone else is kind of taking, like domestic scene fights. So like we think about him, but he's there, but we need to see him against someone that we know to kind of judge off an objective basis.
Yeah. What's interesting about speaking to you, and it's the first time I've ever spoken to you, Luther. I mean, I speak to a lot of boxers, and it's all how they're going to beat these guys. All you're talking about is you talk about all your rivals domestically in the best possible way, and that tells me you realise how hard it's going to be to beat these guys.
Yeah, of course, man. Like before I was a boxer, like only up until recently, obviously at time professional, I only had a handful of amateur fights. So I was a boxing fan. So I was watching these guys anyway. So like I just look at it as like maybe I look at it from like a fan kind of view, and I look at all these guys, look at all these styles, and I guess I look at it in a different kind of angle. But to me, yeah, there's a lot of good boxers, and I feel like I have the ability to be up there with all of them. So yeah, I just talk about everyone pleasantly, because at the end of the day, until you fight, it doesn't really matter. Do you know what I mean? I don't have to talk bad about anyone we don't even have to until we fight. That's when the bad blood starts. But until then, I don't really feel too much.
And tell us a bit about, you were born understanding Durban, South Africa. How did you end up, coming in England? Was you born just, and moved here as a youngster?
Yeah, so I was born in Pinetown in Durban. I was raised in Matatiele, Eastern Cape. Lived various places. I moved to England when I was 6 years old. My mum, my dad, my sister. And then we've been in Bracknell since 2003. But obviously I was born in South Africa. I consider myself South African because apart from me and my dad and my sister, everyone else is back home. So that's home for me. Like we always go home every year and stuff. And I make sure to keep a connection with everyone back home. My siblings as well back there, my cousins, everyone. I've got friends back there as well. So yeah, but I've been in England since 2003. So I'm very much both. They're both home to me,
Yeah, because you've got very much a London accent, or a Southern accent, should I say.
Yeah.
So what do your family in South Africa make of your accent? Or do you, when you're in their company, does it switch back to your South African twang?
Yeah, when I go back, I have obviously got an accent. Even the way I speak Zulu, I have got an accent. The way I pronounce some words is a bit off, but it goes back a little bit. But obviously, you can hear when I talk Zulu or whatever. Everyone can hear that I'm not local. Do you know what I mean? So, but it's all good,
And what was it like when you first moved to Bracknell from Eastern Cape, which is it's the polar opposite, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it depends where you go. Just like everywhere, like obviously some places in South Africa are very rural, like country. Then you got some places where it's the hood, bad neighborhoods. But then you got some places where it's like a normal city. So I was I was born in like the city, and then I lived and grew up in the rural area. So like even before I came to England, I had both mixes of places. So when I moved here, it wasn't that much of a difference. You know what I mean? I went to an English school anyway, so I was already speaking English and everything. So when I moved over, it was different because you're looking around, everything's different and you're different. But when you get settled in, you know what I mean? Especially when you're young, you settle in quickly when you're young. So
yeah, of course. And so how often do you go back there to South Africa? Every year?
Yeah, I go back every year for like between 4 to 6 weeks. Normally July or December is when I normally go home. So
did you get a lot of attention from the South African boxing media?
I have been, but last year they were asking me when am I going to fight. But with boxing, it's hard you can't just get on a plane and go fight. There's a lot of things logistically that have to go on. I guess like money, titles, who you're fighting. Promoters have their own interests, so like it's hard wanting to go fight at home, and then trying to balance the other parts, the business side of everything else. But I'm sure one day I will definitely get to fight at home. It's something I want to do, and one day it will happen.
Yeah. Do you think this fight might land you a promotional deal with Matchroom? Is that the aim for this fight to be? Is that a target for you after this?
Yeah, I mean, it was mentioned by Eddie Hearn and stuff. So obviously it's something that's on my mind, but yeah, you never know. But I'm just focused on the fight itself, really.
Yeah. Are you a full-time boxer, or do you have to work to make ends meet?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm training for a fight, I'm full time. I just dedicate it, but obviously in between fights, I take a bit of time off. I take over and I work then, because still gotta make ends meet.
What do you do? Anything you can do just to earn a few bob?
Yeah, just a little bit. Uber Eats, all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like food delivery kind of stuff. Something. Yeah, something light. So just anything to get the money in. And
that's good stuff. And before we let you go, I know you speak only in the highest terms of everyone and your rivals. Give us a prediction for Saturday night.
I think it's gonna be a good fight. It's gonna be good. I think there's gonna be spots when it's gonna be boxing and sometimes a bit of brawling, all that kind of stuff. But I think I'm gonna get the better of Chris, and I'd like to get the late stoppage.
That's brilliant. Well, thanks very much for speaking to us, and let's hope it all goes well Saturday night, and you land a big money deal with Eddie Hearn. You don't have to go back to Uber Eats delivering.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see.
Thanks very much for your time, Luther. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
For all boxing info, news, and latest interviews, amateur and pro across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.